In the early 2010s, three tech-savvy young men were working on a startup in New York City. First up, we have programmer Dom Hoffman. I have the least to say about him, except for the fact that he's into NFTs now, so ew. Second, we have graphic designer Russ Yusupov. Born in Tajikistan in 1989, he immigrated to the United States after the Iron Curtain fell. He was fresh off being lead designer for the first version of Hulu's website in 2007, so he already had a very successful career. Lastly was their manager, Colin Kroll. He had previously worked for a subsidiary of Yahoo in 2009, and the foreshadowing there is obvious. Colin was a college dropout, just like every other multimillionaire CEO tech wizard before and after him. I graduated college, by the way, and just look at me now. But I'm getting ahead of myself. For now, they're just three guys working on a travel website, doing the whole quit your previously financially safe tech job to make a startup that might go nowhere thing that's apparently popular among Silicon Valley types. They were building a travel website called JetSetter, which still exists today. You can go there right now and look at places you can't afford to visit. Unlike their next project, which only survives in those did that really exist fever dreams alongside nightmares of Mr. Meaty, rage comics, and the concept of planking. There were rumors that as a manager at JetSetter, Colin would call out and berate employees in full view and earshot of the rest of the company. Later, he would be fired from his job at Twitter amid numerous sexual harassment allegations, so he wasn't the greatest person to work under. Allegedly. In 2012, Dom decided that he'd had enough, and did the thing where he quit his financially stable tech job at the JetSetter startup and left to start up his own startup. He convinced Russ to follow him since they had become friends at JetSetter, and, well, he needed someone to actually design the app he was building. Putting aside his managerial skills, Russ had looked up to Colin at JetSetter and convinced Dom to put the two's differences aside and bring him along as the app's third co-founder and their coder. Wait, I thought Dom was the programmer. Are programming and coding two different things? Look, if I knew how technology worked, I'd have more than 105 subscribers.
Ooh, self-burn. Those are rare.
Colin was also recently unemployed. There had supposedly been a mass exodus of executives from the company, and a so-called staff mutiny as they protested, well, basically Colin. So after his poor managerial skills cost the JetSetter startup so many of their employees, he himself was also laid off. So it's kind of crazy Dom agreed to work with him so soon afterwards, considering Colin was the reason he had left to begin with. Perhaps because Colin was no longer in a position of power over the other two at their new company, things began going very smoothly, and reportedly, Dom and Colin became very close friends. And I think you too would become fast friends with anyone you made $30 million with in a matter of months.
Wait, oh yes, wait a minute, Mr. Postman.
You're all going to hell. Goodbye.
The avocado, guacamole, guacamole.
What?
What does that say, Anaya?
What?
No!
What?
In October of 2012, still the same year Dom had handed in his resignation at JetSetter, Twitter bought the app now named Vine for $30 million before it had even launched. The original idea behind Vine was to be an Adobe Premiere or a Camtasia, an editing software but for phone footage. The social media aspect of sharing those videos with one another came later and eventually overtook the entire concept of the app. Vine's infamous 6-second time limit came as a result of wanting to share those videos with each other very quickly and smoothly without having to take time to download them. Vine launched on January 24th, 2013. Despite 6-second video content not appealing to my 14-year-old self, within a year of launching, Vine had 40 million active users. I was going through my it's popular, therefore it's bad phase at the time, so I wasn't a fan.
Am I so out of touch? No, it's the children who are wrong.
Vine created a specific culture for that time period. What was that culture like, you didn't ask? Vaping. It was mostly vaping.
Vaping can deliver toxic metals like nickel and lead into your lungs. That's metal.
And riding hoverboards for some reason. Does anyone still have these? Yeah, 2013 was that year that school bathrooms somehow started smelling worse because of the clouds of gross chemical metallic bubblegum and nicotine. Anyway, this was a time where random teenagers would get internationally famous overnight, because someone that maybe they didn't even know just happened to be recording them. Sometimes they capitalized on it. Daniel from Damn Daniel seemed to enjoy his 15 minutes of fame and his appearance on The Ellen Show.
Damn! Daniel, back at it again with the white vans. Thirsty, man. Damn! Daniel?
As much as a person can enjoy appearing on Ellen. I'm not so sure if the I smell like beef girl will grow up proud of her meme status like the girl that definitely set that house on fire did, or if she will go the way of so many others who had meme status thrust upon them at an early age and then had to live their lives under a spotlight that they didn't ask for. Though I think this kid's gonna turn out just fine.
Let me see what you have.
No!
Sometimes people would catch weird stuff like this on camera. And it would go viral because no one had any idea how to respond, and Vine's 6-second time limit didn't give you anything in the way of much needed context. Remember that sound effect? The one that's always played alongside of Dwayne Johnson raising his eyebrow? Well, it is called the Vine boom, and often it was thrown in between basically every single cut in the video to make it feel as though something intense was going on despite absolutely nothing happening at all.
Break the sound barrier and there's a sonic boom. You broke the
Vine
barrier, Flash.
Vine
Boom. It was me, Perry.
People innovated some creative ways of really making their 6 seconds count. And Vine skyrocketed many people to fame who I had no idea started here, like Bill Wirtz from History of the Entire World, I Guess fame.
It's a worm and some other types of weird strange water bugs and strange fish. It's the Cambrian explosion.
Although if you listen to some of these, it makes sense that some of his videos started off as vines.
Oh hi, thanks for checking in. I'm still a piece of garbage.
Also Shawn Mendes. Yeah, Shawn Mendes. I don't know how you start a singing career when your songs have to be 6 seconds long.
And I can't go back to this, to her, to what distract me, but I'm distracted without you. I don't know how to focus, baby, teach me how to. On a scale of 1 to 10, you're at 100. Want it every night, need it every day.
Though I recently learned that Post Malone started off as a Minecraft YouTuber, so next thing you'll be telling me that Taylor Swift was originally a Mario Sunshine speedrunner.
I knew you were trouble when you walked in.
Anyway, Vine changed the music landscape for better or for worse. Songs that had hooks, or more specifically beat drops good enough to change your outfit mid-video to, would get big no matter if the song had absolutely no substance outside of these 6 seconds that people were hearing it for. It means that Vine launched the careers of a lot of small indie artists, and turned a lot of would-be no-hit wonders into at least one-hit wonders, where millions of people recognized at least 6 seconds of one of their songs instead of otherwise 0. This trend is magnified 1,000 times over, by the way, in modern-day TikTok, as it is basically Vine with a more music-focused gimmick. So now you have big-name artists trying desperately to go viral on TikTok before their song even releases in a very corporate how do you do fellow kids type of way. Although I will say it isn't always the artist's fault. A quote from a Washington Post article. Halsey posted a TikTok this week with the effect of a hostage video. Basically, I have a song that I want to release ASAP, but my record label won't let me. I've been in the industry for 8 years and I've sold over 165 million records, and my record company is saying that I can't release it until they can fake a viral moment on TikTok. Looking back, I probably should have gotten into it. I mean, just think about how many former Vine stars are popular YouTubers today. Yeah, not TikTokers, YouTubers, well, I mean, probably both, but that brings me to my first point I want to make about how Vine failed. Lack of support for its content creators. Vine led to an entirely new genre of fast-paced, slapstick, fast costume change-based humor, a genre that still is live and thriving today on TikTok. This short length did many things. It dramatically inflated the view count, since to actually grasp so many of the videos you had to watch it several times over. Plus, if you found the video funny, you might be sitting there laughing while it just plays over and over on your phone. This rewatchability, the playing the same Vine over and over on a loop, means that executives get to go around and say to investors, hey look, we got 6 billion views last quarter. Clearly, the entirety of the human race is on our app. You should definitely give us your money. And really, that would have only been barely an exaggeration. At the peak, Vine had over 200 million users. That's more than the populations of Germany and Japan combined. Nothing good happens when those countries combine. Vine, despite what you might think, since it no longer exists, was very, very good for its parent company, Twitter. It was not, however, profitable for the people who actually made the platform the cultural juggernaut that it was. No, not him. Not him either. No, not him either. We're not at TikTok yet. Wait your turn, kids. Yes, them, the content creators. The people that actually sustain a platform yet are somehow always the last thought at shareholders' meetings and never the topic of conversation when discussing copyright policy. On Vine, similar in ways to the early days of YouTube, there just wasn't a way to make money off of your content. Vine stars may have been world famous, but you can't exactly take a minute out of your video to do an ad read for Raid Shadow Legends when your video is only 6 seconds long to begin with. And Raid wouldn't exist for another like 8 years at that point, so I guess it would have been Audible, Blue Apron. My point is, somebody please sponsor me. My actual point is, while YouTubers and podcasters today can pretty much ignore the pennies they get from passive ad revenue and make a living off of doing sponsorship deals, Vine stars weren't getting anything despite bringing millions of people to the platform. Most realized this is just how the platform was, and decided they would get their audiences on Vine and then bring them over to YouTube as they branch out and make longer form, more profitable, and sometimes drastically worse and problematic content.
I've made a severe and continuous lapse in my judgment.
Twitter made some ceremonial at best gestures when the issue of profitability was brought up to them. They added options to grow the already top Viners' audiences even further by adding a tab called Suggested Viners, as well as boosting their content in the algorithm. Because when people come to you complaining that they're doing all the work and you're making all the money, clearly the answer is to give them more unpaid work to do. In the fall of 2015, a meeting was supposedly held between 18 of the top Vine content creators and Twitter executives. It came as a result of massively dwindling numbers on the platform as content creators were moving to Instagram or YouTube. The meeting was set up by Marcus Johns and Pikes? I don't know. Like I said, I was never on Vine.
No one else was in the room where it happened, the room where it happened, the room where it happened.
I couldn't tell if this meant a one-time payment or per year, but the deal would have been that they were paid $1.2 million for the idea that they would make at least 3 Vines per week, which by my calculations means that they would have done 18 seconds of work per week for $1.2 million. That is a joke. I understand that a lot more goes into making content like this other than the 6 seconds of filming. But you do have to agree there's a bit of a production value gap between popular Vines back then and popular TikToks today. Sometimes.
The B, it's M to the B, it's M, 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 M.
The proposal didn't go through, obviously, and because companies like to keep all of their business dealings quiet through the threat of legal consequences, we don't actually have any more facts to go off of. And it was at that point that Twitter announced it would be deprioritizing Vine as a platform. Not canceling it outright, but no longer supporting it. It was around this time that Twitter also made it possible to upload short-form videos as tweets, making itself an active competitor to Vine alongside Instagram and the newly released Snapchat.
I can't believe you've done this.
Twitter was actually struggling financially at this time, if that's possible to believe today. In October of 2015, it laid off 300 of its own employees just to keep itself profitable. For investors, supporting this new volatile subsidiary of the company, which didn't even have a way to properly monetize itself, wasn't worth it when the parent company itself was struggling. Of those unlucky few who were caught in this mass layoff was one Russ Yusupov, who, by 2015, was the last of Vine's co-founders still working at Twitter. Yeah, there's been a lot going on behind the scenes we haven't been talking about. So you know the thing, where you quit your previously financially safe tech industry job to make a startup that might go nowhere thing? Yeah, Dom did the thing again. Is this guy married? Someone needs to tell any future significant others that he has commitment issues.
Will you do the thing for the rest of our lives?
No.
Dom Hoffman left his role as general manager of Vine in early 2014. Yeah, like just a few months after it launched, and the guy whose whole idea this was already out the door.
Hold on. This whole operation was your idea.
Rumors began that he was working on an app that would compete directly with Vine. Colin Kroll replaced him for 3 entire months before being fired for poor managerial skills amid numerous sexual harassment allegations. Russ was the only one to see Vine through all of its ups and downs, but soon after being laid off, he got to speak his mind about the whole situation. His tweet of "don't sell your company" went about as viral as any video on his platform ever did. And the fact that that message was delivered via Twitter just kinda feels like poetic justice. So we know what happened with Colin. We've established that he's not someone who should be trusted with power over other people. Allegedly. Everyone thinks I'm an asshole, and I am an asshole, but I can't help it because everyone around me is so stupid. And Russ sailed that sinking ship through the very bitter end, abandoned by both his partners and the company he trusted to financially support them through the hard times, not milk his cash cow for all it was worth and then dump it and him the second they ran into the slightest bit of adversity. But what was going on at Twitter that made Dom decide that he was gonna get up and leave and build a competitor to the app that he had just poured his heart and soul into, especially at a time when the app was skyrocketing to success? Well, reportedly, from the start, Dom had absolutely no intention of ever integrating his company with Twitter. Sure, he was on board with the $30 million part, but to him, actually being a part of Twitter was never a part of the deal. By the way, while writing the script, Elon Musk bought Twitter for $44 billion in a hostile takeover. I'm sure the Vine guys are hoping that he'll run it into the ground. He will. Twitter employees would, in later years, speak out about how hard it was to work with the Vine team. They had every opportunity to move in and incorporate with Twitter. Just physically, their headquarters, Vine, was located in New York City and Twitter in San Francisco. That wasn't just a difference of state, but also a 3-hour time difference. They were often offered help on technical problems from Twitter employees, but they always turned them down to do everything themselves. Vine's 6-second time limitation, one of the death knells of it as a platform, was a product of limited server space. From the very beginning, this major hurdle could have been overcome if they just built Vine on Twitter's servers instead of the much smaller server space that Vine, the independent startup, had in New York City. Twitter bought Vine before it had even launched. They could have done this before they launched the app. There's no logistical problems here. They were just stubborn. Honestly, it's no wonder Twitter deprioritized Vine as a platform, when Twitter was never the priority for anyone working at Vine. But yeah, Vine's dead. We knew that going in.
Oh, boo-hoo! Let me play a sad song for you on the world's smallest violin.
Bad decisions all around by pretty much everyone involved turned the biggest new social media platform on the internet into a ghost town in less than 3 years. Lack of support from Twitter and the eventual direct competition from Twitter eventually killed the platform for good. But because of its massive success in that short amount of time, surely Vine's 3 co-founders would go on to enormously successful careers in the tech industry, right?
You serious?
Let's start with Dom. Peach was an app launched in 2016, and it was basically just a discount Twitter. It was a social media app, but it had pretty much no one on it, which defeats the purpose of the social part of social media. It had some apparently innovative features, like being able to type the letter G and instantly having a table of GIFs appear and other magic word shortcuts, which sounds really annoying for anyone who doesn't know what those shortcuts are and is just trying to type out words. It felt more subdued, it had a pastel color scheme that really sold the whole really indie alternative to Twitter aesthetic. If I wasn't here to tell you that this is the passion project of a former Twitter employee who turned around and tried to one-up the company that had just destroyed his previous career, I bet you could probably have figured that out for yourselves. It's still downloadable today in the Apple App Store, but in a BGR article written by Taro Kitunen?
What?
Okay, moving forward, we're gonna pretend that's a real name of an actual journalist and not like a deep lore Star Wars character who got retconned when J.J. Abrams took over. Anyway, in a BGR article written by Taro Kitunen, 5 days after the app launched, he declared the app dead. Apparently prompting many angry emails from the people who were still trying to keep the app afloat. His reasoning being that life comes at you fast on the app world, and when Peach launched, it barely scraped the top 100 apps list and then dropped off immediately. Taro, a veteran in the industry and presumably also a master of Karelian kickboxing, hadn't seen services like this get a second wind from this situation. And why would Peach, of all apps, get that second wind? No one needs a new social media, we need the ones we use to be held accountable for spying on us, and then we can just go about our day. And if you thought Dom didn't stick by Vine very long, despite its rapid success, you know he didn't stick by a product of his that was actively failing. So Dom proceeded to do the thing, you know, the whole quit your previous barely limping along tech startup to start a startup that might also go nowhere thing? Yeah, that. His second endeavor, after failing to topple Twitter as a platform, was to bring back Vine, as by this point it had been officially cancelled. Yeah, those rumors floating around back in 2014 were true, but they just came a little bit too soon.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna go build my own
Vine
with blackjack and hookers.
The project, originally dubbed V2, now exists as Byte, and probably is a faithful successor to the original, with even more of Dom's vision, and probably would have done incredibly well if not for, you know. Stop. We're not talking about TikTok yet. I know people who use that app have absolutely no attention span and won't make it that long into the video, but we will get there, I promise. But yeah, that's honestly all I can say. I remember the hype when V2 was announced. I remember hearing that it was being made by the original guy who thought up Vine to begin with, and I had long passed my being too good for things that were popular phase, so I was genuinely excited for it. I had been watching old Vine compilations on YouTube, and I now understood all the references that people had been making around me for the last half decade. But I never cared enough to follow the project and make sure that I knew exactly when it launched. I figured that it would be popular enough that I would know instantly, because everyone would download it and I'd hear about it. I've been somewhere. Somewhere no one should ever have to go. The second page of Google search results. You have to go to the second page of results when Googling Byte before anything about the Vine sequel is actually mentioned. There's paid advertising for an Invisalign ripoff, and most of the results are about, you know, a byte, a measurement of computer whatever. I don't know anything about technology, we've been over this.
Look at this graph.
It's just such a generic thing to name your company that's never going to be found by anyone who doesn't already know exactly what they're searching for. Though to be fair, he did name his previous two projects Vine and Peach. What I'm getting here is that this isn't a new issue. Wait, it's already changed its name? To what? To Clash? Gee, I wonder what comes up first when I Google Clash mobile app. Vine was new, innovative, and had the financial backing of a titan of the social media industry. Clash was an indie project trying to squeeze its way into a marketplace oversaturated with well-established brands and bringing little new to the table. So let's see what Clash is actually like, shall we? It looks exactly like TikTok, of course. Except remember how Dom seems to be under the impression that the formula of previous successful brand plus added GIFs and emojis equals profit? Yeah, that never changed, nor has it ever worked. And now he seems to be exclusively marketing Clash towards not the consumers, but the future content creators, explicitly for how fully and completely they'll be able to bleed their audiences dry on the platform. Doing what you loved just got easier. Join over 4,000 short-form video creators already learning on Clash. 4,000. Yeah, I think we're done here. So, needless to say, Clash did not do well, and Dom moved on to other things. So look, we're done with the joke. He left to start up another startup. It's just who he is, okay?
It defines who I am.
We're not saying you have... What?
Someone on TV said it.
Specifically, he moved on to NFTs. Apparently becoming a crypto bro is the standard retirement plan among Twitter executives.
Like, if I were not at Square or Twitter, I'd be working on Bitcoin.
Should I even talk about this? Can I get sued if I call these scams? Because they are. Welcome to the world of NFT games. Or blockchain games, or pay-to-earn games, whatever you want to call them. I'm not here to explain why NFTs themselves are bad. There are plenty of videos out there that can explain that much better than I ever could, and I really don't want to subject myself to learning about that long enough to be able to explain it properly. Can we talk about Dom's personal website for a second? Look how calming those graphic pixely waves are. I could just stare at that thing forever and absolutely never click into the above pyramid schemes. Alright, let's do this. These are not the technically legal pyramid-shaped business structures that MLMs get away with. No, these legitimately are illegal pyramid schemes that get away with the way they function because they pay each other in monopoly money. Pay-to-earn games are games where the point is to get rare images, or to unlock playable characters that are unique only to you, if however slightly. You might have a character whose scarf is a slightly lighter shade of purple than the next guy's. In the case of Dom's game Blitmap, the characters get a different TV head and jacket. It's just Teletubbies. He made NFT Teletubbies. I can't... The point in playing these things has absolutely nothing to do with enjoying whatever rudimentary gameplay is actually in the game itself. It's in selling these rare in-game things. And you'll only ever get the really rare ones with actual money while getting completely worthless ones by playing through the game normally. Let's discuss Dom's other pay-to-earn game, Loot, which you can tell by the name already that we're in for some shenanigans. So this is Loot, Dom Hoffman's attempt at an 80s-era 8-bit dungeon crawler game. It's clearly going for that specific style, looking old and outdated on purpose, and it's certainly one of those two things. Let's see how far we have to scroll down this page before this ugly Final Fantasy reboot becomes money-related. Here we are. Trade on Loot Exchange and trade on OpenSea. I really don't know who needs to hear this, but when people play a game, they want to, you know, play the game and not be tricked into betting at an auction.
Give me your money!
Resources, track the loot ecosystem, graph loot projects so you can see your progress in the Lootverse, search for Genesis Mana. Now see, that's the first actual video game sounding thing I've read all day and would also make a decent band name. Not a great one though. And why does this boot have eyes? I have to say, I don't think Dom Hoffman has the same mindset that a real passionate video game developer is supposed to have. Dom is currently working on something he calls SupDrive, which is going to be this blockchain video game console, as in not a video game console, but something you download onto your computer, which plays games that are stored in the blockchain. Because of course, having the games downloaded onto your computer, that's too risky. The valuable assets you have in the game are far too expensive and you need to keep them safe. So the actual games themselves aren't downloaded locally onto a computer, they are just out there existing in this thing and you access them through your computer, and why does this sound so familiar to me? It's Stadia. He's trying to do Stadia but with blockchain technology instead of cloud storage. Dude thought he could topple Twitter. And then he comes around and thinks that he's gonna succeed in something that Google already failed miserably at. Everything on Supdrive's Twitter page. Yes, it's Twitter, not it's Peach. I don't think even Dom uses that to advertise his companies. Everything on Supdrive's Twitter seems to suggest that by video games, they mean rip-offs of things that were made in at least 1995 or earlier. For a tech visionary innovator, Dom Hoffman really seems to enjoy ripping off outdated concepts and creating platforms where people think they can make money but can't. Web 3.0 is doing great, guys. Anyway, anti-pay-to-earn rant over. So that's it. We're done with Dom, and hopefully I never have to mention NFTs in a video ever again.
Hey, thought you could leave without saying goodbye.
Wait, this is gonna get me copyright claimed, isn't it? How can we not talk about family when family's all that we got? Everything you've been through, I was standing there by my side. Wait. And now you're gonna be with me for the last time. But the story of Vine really has 3 separate sequels running in parallel. So let's check in on the 2 other founders and see what they were doing after Vine collapsed. Soon after Russ was laid off, he went to work on something else that you might have heard of before, a wildly popular flash in the pan called HQ Trivia. And just like with Vine, Russ immediately roped Colin into it at the first available opportunity. This one's a nice memory, my sister played this. It was huge for a few weeks, like a Words with Friends or whatever the other word thing that old people are playing right now is. The kind of thing like Vine that even if you didn't play it yourself, you couldn't escape because people would be talking about it in the halls. Which is strange because it wasn't even a meme-based app. It's weird that something like this would become the cultural phenomenon it was. What was it? Well, it's exactly what it sounds like. It was a trivia app.
Palindrome 6? Slang adjective for someone you think is not what they seem, especially if they might be the imposter in the game.
Amogus.
Matea, what is sus?
It was like Jeopardy, but in your pocket, but the whole world could be playing at once, all answering the same questions, and everyone has a chance to win money. Scott Rogowski was the face of the app, reading off trivia questions to millions of viewers every night. His catchphrase was, "Let's get down to the nitty-gritty." Through this, he gained a very avid Twitter following who nicknamed him Quiz Daddy.
Mobile entertainment will truly still be the wave of the future and the way we consume media, and those networks should be scared because HQ proved it.
It was no secret who HQ Trivia was owned and operated by, so news outlets very quick to write headlines like, "Is HQ Trivia the new Vine?" No, not at all. That wouldn't have even made sense. But old people who have journalism degrees don't understand how the internet works. Hey, how'd that get there? Prizes for the nightly quiz shows ranged from $5,000 to $400,000. A jackpot would be split amongst the winners, so if your prize was $5, you might earn like $6.30 since that jackpot was split amongst so many hundreds of people. But occasionally there would be only one person left answering the last question as the questions got harder and harder, and there were some hefty payouts on certain nights. The app eventually started to add in other game modes, such as HQ Words, which was more of a Wheel of Fortune style game that was at one point guest hosted by Neil Patrick Harris. HQ Tunes, which was a game where you had to be the first person to buzz in and answer what the song was after they played a couple seconds of it. And some more adult-oriented content like HQ After Dark, which was the same thing as HQ Trivia but with more adult-oriented questions. And HQ Jokes, which I guess was their Whose Line Is It Anyway? Russ was quoted as saying that he eventually wanted the grand prizes to be more than $1 million. But as the app started to get more and more popular, investor money didn't keep pouring in, they started to pull out. And now I have to do what I've been avoiding doing the entire video, talk in depth about the life of Colin Kroll. None of the allegations seem to be on the public record. Colin was never directly fired for sexual harassment. It was always bad managerial skills. Which, if we go all the way back to Jet Setter and remember that he was known for berating employees in public, okay, maybe that holds some weight to it. But the whole thing just reeks of everyone's under non-disclosure agreements and being paid not to talk. Allegedly. A number of his former employees reported that he acted inappropriately with women, and several would-be investors backed out of HQ Trivia when his background was looked into. According to a Gizmodo article, one would-be investor who remained unnamed described Colin's actions as egregious. An investor who actually did go forward with HQ Trivia, Jeremy Liu, said, "I found a good deal of negative sentiment about Colin at the Vine team and some discomfort with his behavior, but I did not find evidence that warrants his removal from the company." Okay, but he was removed from the company, which means that they're probably not telling you the whole story, probably because they legally can't. And at this point, you're probably not going to find anyone willing to reopen old wounds and tarnish Colin Kroll's name, even if any non-disclosure agreements happen to expire in the near future. So let's talk about what things people are allowed to say about Colin. Well, according to an article on Vox, conversations with at least 15 former Twitter and Vine employees describe a man abrasive, disinterested, and verbally abusive. Kroll was also known at times to show up late to work hungover and disheveled, according to 5 former colleagues.
2 shots of vodka.
This all factored into his dismissal, sources say. The article continues. There are other reasons some investors are avoiding HQ, even though it's the most talked about app of the last few weeks. The main one, concerns about whether or not HQ can turn a twice-daily trivia show into an actual company, not just a hit with a limited lifespan. Which, yeah, I think these short-lived flash-in-a-pan things are pretty common. It was a fad, a good one. I brought up Words with Friends because that was a fad I got into on at least 3 separate occasions, one that was immune to that one Star Wars character's idea that these things only get one chance and then die out no matter what. Some of them can have resurgences. There are some people who stopped playing Pokemon Go after 2016. A few people continuously played it throughout. The majority of people who play it now got back into it more recently. But when the founders of HQ Trivia were famous for making the biggest short-lived fad app of all time, I can see why investors were skeptical and why that could have led to a decrease in support for the app. But despite this, it wasn't investor hesitancy nor natural decline in media coverage that killed the app. A quote from Scott, the former host of their trivia show,
HQ didn't die of natural causes. It was poisoned with a lethal cocktail of incompetence, arrogance, short-sightedness, and sociopathic delusion. He took a $100 million company and brought it to zero in less than 2 years.
You think Russ, HQ Trivia's founder and the only member of the Vine team to see it through to the end, would be the perfect person to be in charge here as the app was declining. But no, in September of 2018, Colin ousted Russ as CEO of Intermedia Labs, the parent company that owned HQ Trivia. Here's the way Colin phrased his takeover of the company. A quote from a Ringer article by Alyssa Bereznak. "I think Russ is a fantastic creative, and really the thing is we weren't able to execute on them fast enough. I think we just mutually agreed that we would reorganize ourselves. I think he's going to continue to do a lot of the things that he's really great at, and I'm going to try and put some structure around the business, which has been relatively complicated." So Russ wasn't pushed out of the company entirely, he was just moved to an employee role when he was the company's founder. It was seen as a scummy move. Remember, Russ was the one who kept Colin employed for basically the last decade of his life. He'd been fired twice for poor managerial skills. But Russ just saw so much potential in him and looked up to him as this tech visionary that he kept roping him into every project that he was a part of. He couldn't seem to see a way in the tech industry without his mentor from Jet Setter. Even convincing others to put aside what they'd heard about him or ignore what they've experienced themselves working under him for the sake of the business. Colin said he wanted to get a viral push from every new show they put out, which they did. It was under Colin that they started to pump out all of these new shows one after the other. It was at this same press conference where Russ unveiled the HQ Words, which is their Wheel of Fortune ripoff.
Your time starts now. A group of pill pushers?
This is Wheel of Fortunes, yo!
From here, HQ Trivia saw a moderate renewal and success. Not at all to the numbers it had seen previously, but it stopped hemorrhaging users for a time. But we're not here to talk about what worked and didn't work in HQ Trivia. We're here to talk about the 3 men who made this possible.
You stupid.
They're not.
What's 9 plus 10?
21.
You stupid.
You want to poke it?
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they...
Ever seen The Wolf of Wall Street? I don't think Colin Kroll ever did. Or if he did, I guess he thought you're supposed to root for and admire Jordan Belfort. So, Mike's Candy Shop was a business which delivered,
Chris! Is that a weed?
No, this is a crayon.
I'm calling the police!
911, what's your emergency?
It was apparently quite the efficient business, running 7 days a week from 6 p.m. to 12 a.m., unless it was Christmas, Easter, or Labor Day. Yeah, they observed Labor Day.
A group of pill pushers?
According to Peter Fitchburg, the special agent in charge of Homeland Security investigations in New York, this illicit enterprise allegedly allowed people to order heroin and cocaine to their doorstep simply by calling the business phone number with the same convenience as if they were ordering a pizza. On December 16th, 2018, at the age of 34, Colin Kroll was found in his Soho, Manhattan apartment, dead. He had overdosed on these 4 things pictured behind me. His death led to the arrest of 6 of the people who ran Mike's Candy Shop. If anything good came out of the whole thing, it would be that the business was shut down because of the press that this had garnered. When so often these things are swept under the rug because of course drugs are only illegal for poor people. The scandal was very public, the kind of thing that if the previous allegations against Colin Kroll didn't cause investors to pull out of HQ Trivia, then well. Look, I know I've painted Colin Kroll as a villain throughout this video, and I'm not one to push crappy things a person has done aside and look at their life through rose-tinted glasses because they're no longer with us. It just feels weird to me to be making a video at all about someone who is so recently deceased. But if your main takeaway is that Colin Kroll is the main thing wrong with every business that he and Russ ever worked on together, then, and I'm sorry for the length of this video and the fact that we're still not talking about how TikTok succeeded where Vine failed, but we're not done with HQ Trivia yet, because if you remember this quote,
HQ didn't die of natural causes. It was poisoned with a lethal cocktail of incompetence, arrogance, short-sightedness, and sociopathic delusion.
Yeah, Scott was talking about Russ there, not Colin. Colin Kroll, famously aggressive, fired twice for being aggressive and bad at managing people, horrendous reputation for sexual harassment, known to show up late to work hungover, and now we know that that hangover was not just alcohol. However, his time as CEO of Intermedia Labs marked a major second wind for a company that had almost squandered its one shot. You know, the whole no second chances thing that Plo Koon or whatever from earlier was talking about with Dom's Twitter ripoff.
No second chances. I'm that sort of a man.
Colin may have had a lot of demons he was fighting in his life. But he knew the tech landscape, probably better than Russ or Dom ever did. I imagine that's why he was so much more often their boss rather than their equal partner throughout this story. Notice how Colin never left a project unfinished willingly. Everything always prospered under him, aside from the people that he worked with. If he was in charge, the project wasn't just succeeding, it was going viral. Think about it, like I said, he started off at Yahoo. Yahoo, back when that meant something, where are they now? Love him or hate him, Colin Kroll was a tech industry giant. A business he ran was going to go through the stratosphere. And after he was gone, Russ Yusupov was left to ride that high all the way back down to earth. Again. In the short time Colin ran the company, the new game types were coming out left and right, constantly keeping up a media buzz reporting on it whenever they launched. News coverage about celebrity guest hosts, Neil Patrick Harris, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, were also keeping up media buzz, keeping people talking about them. However, perfectly content to keep going with the game types that were working and improving on them rather than rushing to invent new ones, Russ did not keep up his predecessor's coke-fueled innovation binge. Personally, I think this is the better way to do things, but what do I know? Focus on improving what does work, rather than constantly creating new handheld parodies of every game show ever invented. And they were running out of those anyway. What was gonna come next? HQ Survivor, where you have to run out in the woods and live there for 2 months with nothing but a virtual Jeff Probst making fun of you, having you jump over logs, make a necklace out of fish bones, and fight a deer with your bare hands, and wait a second, why is this the best idea I've ever had? Anyway, the staff thought the company under Russ was stagnating, and 20 of them signed a petition to have him removed. They didn't actually file this with the board of directors, but Russ found out about it anyway, and had all 20 of the people who signed it fired. These employees were not replaced. And now, HQ Trivia, as big of a company as it was at the time, was now being run by less than 30 people total. And soon, the death knell of any mobile app reared its ugly head: microtransactions. The Wheel of Fortune ripoff HQ Words was cut back to only Tuesdays and Thursdays, but if you wanted to play it every single day like you had before, you could pay $10 a month for that privilege.
$10.
They also offered the ability to pay for extra lives, which basically means you could now get questions wrong in their trivia game and still be a part of it if you were willing to pay up. Keep in mind, people downloaded this app because they wanted to make money, not lose it, and it basically killed the integrity of the entire game. But perhaps the most telling blunder in the entire saga of the downfall of HQ Trivia was when they stopped being able to pay out the winners of their trivia nights. Former Jeopardy champion Alex Jacobs one night won $20,000 on the app, and several months later tweeted that he hadn't been paid yet. Not only was that publicly bad for the company, but to rub salt in the wound, he tweeted, "@Russ, can you help?" He couldn't.
Give me your money!
This is also when Scott Rogowski left, and it wasn't a clean split. Supposedly, he had already been threatened with termination if he went through with an interview scheduled with the Daily Beast about his rise to fame and HQ Trivia. Which is such a weird decision, because that's just free advertising. Why would you not want that, Russ?
My goals are beyond your understanding.
This time, Scott wanted to host Change Up, which is some sports commentary show on a streaming service called DAZN. But Russ didn't like the idea of his star talent moonlighting at another company and gave him an ultimatum. And we know what side of that ultimatum Scott took, considering he didn't like the direction the company was going in anyway.
When there's too much drama at school, all you gotta do is walk away.
So he left to pursue a career in sports commentary. Something happened very soon after that, which put a hold on the concept of sports existing for a while. So in the downtime, Scott started a very popular podcast. I'd look up and see if since then he got the job at Change Up, but that would require actually looking up what the streaming service DAZN is, and this video is way too long already. As for Russ, well, HQ Trivia was shut down on February 1st, 2020. He had been in talks with a company that was supposedly going to buy his dying app. Another quote from that same Ringer article from earlier. In the February 14th all-hands meeting where Russ Yusupov had dissolved the company, he told the HQ staff that they wouldn't be given severance and that the players who had won money in the game wouldn't be able to cash out. Understandably, both of those groups were not happy. Wait, is literally any of that legal? Also, there's this fire tweet from Scott Rogowski from the same day.
Don't sell your company.
Don't let him run your company.
But it turns out it didn't matter if it was legal or not. Because 4 days later, Russ tweeted out in all caps, "HQ will live on. And it did. HQ Trivia was relaunched on March 29th, 2020, which, had I known about it, sounds like something I probably should have gotten back into during the pandemic. I could have made a few bucks if they had the ability to pay out winners, which I know they have a history of not keeping up their end of the bargain. Just like that, the tradition of playing HQ faded from workplaces across the US. No more afternoon games, no more Scott Rogowski. HQ died, then it came back again, and now it's just another app that used to be popular.
App used to be popular.
I'm sure the vast majority of people who played HQ Trivia in 2017 had no idea that it still existed in 2018, let alone that they could still be playing it today. Just how the vast majority of Vine users from 2013 have no idea that there's this thing called Clash that's supposed to be Vine 2 and was supposedly made by the guy who thought up the original. Hey, if Vine's so popular, why is there no Vine 2? How do you do, fellow kids?
#1 victory royale, yeah, Fortnite, we bout to get down. 10 kills on the board right now, just wiped out Tomato Town.
What? Oh yeah, look, I don't own a skateboard, I'm not that cool. I learned how to do that, by the way, in order to make this video. You would better subscribe. Yes, we are finally here, the part of the video where I talk about how TikTok has succeeded in being a blatant ripoff of Vine, but still managing to not implode while being on top of the world. And, well, give me a sec. So yeah, I'm a bit late to the party. But much like with Vine, I didn't need to actually be on the platform in order to know all of the major things happening on it within a few days of them happening. When Vine died, there was this mad scramble for what would be the new Vine. Every app to come out that was semi-popular with kids of the day was called the new Vine in headlines. Even if it wasn't a short-form video-based social media, see HQ Trivia. In this mad scramble, Snapchat got the earliest and most promising lead for a time. It was certainly at its peak when I was starting college. But it deletes all the videos that you make, so that's just not sustainable for content. It was focused on being the new Instagram, not the new Vine. Meanwhile, Instagram itself was focused on being the new Vine while also trying to keep pace with Snapchat, and now every social media has stories that I don't watch. Also, why is everything always now filmed with vertical phone footage? I can't get over this. I'm fine with everything else, every new change that is the result of the Vine era in modern social media, but can we all just take our phones and turn them landscape again, please? Everything is better that way. Now, blatantly copying another app is illegal, obviously, unless you live in China, where the company ByteDance, which created Douyin in 2014, is located. There are many obvious Chinese ripoffs of foreign brands, oftentimes because the Chinese government won't allow those brands to do business in their company, so those are filling a necessary gap, a niche in the market. But other times it's just because they don't have copyright law.
No copyright law in the universe is going to stop me!
Or at least they don't enforce it for businesses they know are going to bring in money to their country.
Okay. Hi.
Okay. Musically, for whatever differences it had from Vine, was unique enough to not be a blatant ripoff in foreign markets. However, Douyin, released in China, was just an absolute direct Vine ripoff. ByteDance created both apps at the same time, releasing Douyin in China and Musically to Western audiences so that it could capture both, having its Vine for China and its non-copyright infringing Vine for the Western market.
Run!
Vine.
It looks like
Vine.
but due to international copyright laws, it's not. Still, we should run like it is!
Vine.
Though it isn't.
But in 2018, figuring enough years had passed in order to release a blatant ripoff in countries that have laws, ByteDance merged Musically with Douyin. And TikTok was officially launched on August 2nd, 2018. So what is it that TikTok's doing right? They really didn't innovate much for themselves. They're just very good at picking those things from every company that came before them that worked and throwing them all together. The easiest answer is no 6-second time limit. When TikTok first launched, it had a 15-second time limit, which was later expanded to a minute and now 3 minutes.
I can do this all day.
Yeah, I know.
But there are a lot more apps than just Vine to steal ideas from, and all of those Vine ripoffs that had grown up in the meantime also had great ideas to steal from. Live streaming was a big one. It was big when Vine existed too, but back then you needed to be really at home on your computer to be watching, and Twitch, the only real name in the live streaming industry at the time, required everyone on the platform to be playing a video game. You could be banned for streaming nothing and just talking to your audience. There were no IRL streams or other content. Instagram and Facebook live streaming, yeah, Facebook actually innovating something besides ways to spy on you, imagine that, became a much bigger thing in the years since, and so TikTok copied them. Speaking of technology spying on you for nefarious purposes, TikTok's algorithm got very, very good at funneling content to its users that they wanted to see. The app will quickly learn everything about you, make a profile of the things you're interested in, and funnel that content to you, even knowing what kind of content you might be interested in for different times of the day. Some people are okay with that. Fewer people would be okay with that, knowing that TikTok is literally the Chinese government spying on you. But most of us are too busy wistfully ignoring the surveillance state within our own country to notice we're also being spied on by others. TikTok's major focus on music leads to new dance trends seemingly daily. Old Town Road becoming one such trend launched Lil Nas X's career, and gave former one-hit wonder Billy Ray Cyrus a second one hit, for whatever that's worth. And I mentioned before how big-name artists now specifically market themselves to try and go viral on this app. So as it turns out, the main example I was thinking of here, Ed Sheeran's advertising the song Shivers with TikToks, was apparently YouTube Shorts, not TikToks. But was I really wrong? Are YouTube Shorts and TikToks actually different in any conceivable way? I don't think so. Mainly because they want to see the same kind of success that things like Old Town Road saw. From what I understand, nowadays these trends fly by in hours instead of days, so to actually know what they are would require actually using the app instead of reading articles about them like a boomer. TikToks are also just so much higher quality than Vines ever were. Mostly. Some of the time. Phone camera quality has come a very long way since 2013, and while that may be a major reason TikToks look so much better, your phone's camera's only really improved as dramatically as it has because social media trends have gone the way they have. It's because people are using their phones like this and so often that the pressure is on phone companies to make them better and better year after year. Which came first, the ring light or the Instagram makeup tutorial? All these content creators have these ring lights hooked up around their phones shooting in 4K HD video, and none of that's even really all that expensive in today's day and age. The editing and production value that goes into some of these is honestly insane. This part's just pure bias, but I also would say that TikTok's culture just is a lot less cringe than Vine's ever was.
Wow.
TikTok is also really convenient for spreading information around the world lightning fast. The current situation going on in Eastern Europe, that I don't want to mention by name for YouTube purposes, was being called the TikTok War at the beginning by many media outlets. TikTokers were tracking troop movements and sending videos of where tanks were heading in real time to millions of people. Unfortunately, it's also, and this is really a problem with all social medias, a place rampant with misinformation and conspiracies.
Right, so you're telling me that you got an entire degree in classics and it never occurred to you that there isn't a single Roman document? It always blows my mind talking to people who have invested their lives in the study of ancient Rome because y'all don't seem to realize it didn't exist. It is a figment of the Spanish Inquisition's imagination.
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition!
It was bred in circuses. It's a circus, man.
Another thing is that TikToker just sounds way better than Viner. If I have to refer to someone who got famous on Vine, I'll say Vine Star, even though I know that's not what they're called. What rolls off the tongue far easier than either of those two, however, is YouTuber. Which brings me to my biggest point, and really the main takeaway I want you to get from this video. TikTokers get paid. A lot. A lot of a lot. There are very simple ways to monetize yourself on the platform, and therefore people have an incentive to stay. TikTok makes TikTokers. Vine made YouTubers. That is why they failed.
I don't believe it.
That is why you fail.
Despite being deprioritized by Twitter in 2015 amid losses of dozens of millions of active users, Vine wasn't fully shut down until January 18th, 2017. A website still able to be visited today exists as an archive of all the footage ever uploaded to the app in all of its 6-second glory, so adults can look back years later and cringe hard at the fact that they used to be world famous for this. It was a defining moment in the direction internet culture was headed, and in many ways we're still feeling the fallout from it today. Whether that's from apps trying to copy its success, or from its founders still pumping out project after project in a desperate attempt to regain their 3 glorious years of relevancy. Dom seemingly never had the attention span to see any project through to its conclusion. Colin tried to do everything all at once in a wild coke-fueled mania, and that worked wonders for however long he was ever able to hold down a job. And Russ played things too safe. He could actually manage a company for the most part, but couldn't keep pace with other coke-fueled maniac innovators in the tech industry without Colin by his side. It's a complicated story, and absolutely none of them came out of it looking good. But without them, we would have never have had this.
I don't want to be cool anymore. Well, I guess I don't have a choice.
I play in a band. That's fun.
I was in a band.
Hi, welcome to Chili's.
Now, yes.
I'm John Cena!
And doesn't that make it all worth it in the end? This has been Jack from History Science Theater. Thanks for watching. How do you do, fellow kids? What? Oh, yeah. I don't own a skateboard, I'm not that cool.